So I'm Justin on Twitter, if you want to say hi. And right now, I run a startup called Transistor.fm. We do podcast hosting. I think there's a few people that use Transistor in here. It's awesome. I have a podcast called Build Your SaaS, as in software as a service, where me and my partner John Buda every week just share the honest journey about what it's like to build a software product. And then I have a blog, justinjackson.ca. But I want to get to know you folks a little bit, so I want to know how many of you in here are in your teens? Any teenagers? Okay, here. Really? You're in your teenagers? Yeah, okay. Any other teens? Okay, so there's a handful. Okay. How about in your 20s? Anyone in their 20s? All right. Pretty good, pretty good. How about their 30s? Oh, yeah. PHP. Old. All right, what about 40s? Oh, yeah. Look at that, right up front here, too. Anyone in the 40s in the back? Nice, you still have good eyesight. What's going on? 50s, LASIK. This segment brought to you by LASIK. Anyone in their 50s? Oh, yeah, you hear that? That yeah. That's experience, fuckers. 60s? Is there anyone in their 60s here? Anybody? There is, right here. Yes, right on. You should just come up and give this talk. I don't know shit. And is there anyone in their 70s? Anyone in their 70s? That's too bad. That means life's over for us once we hit 70. There's no 70-year-old programmers. And 80s, I guess not, right? I've been thinking about age a lot lately. I was born in 1980, so I'm 39. I'm just hanging on to my 30s by my fingernails, you know? And that means it's been about 20 years since I graduated. What was going on with this guy? Now, I showed you my grade 9 picture. This is me in grade 9. Hey, be nice. Oh, look at that nerd mullet. Braces, headgear, glasses in the same week. And then my parents let me go to school with this haircut. I won Motley Crue tickets with this haircut, by the way, at a radio station. But we'll go to this guy. Now, this guy's a little bit frosted tips. I don't know what I was thinking there either. But I've been thinking about, man, it's been 20 years since I graduated. And I keep thinking about how I got from here to here. This is me in my mid-30s. How many of you are in your mid-30s right now? Man, mid-30s. And here's a scientific graph of what happens over time. As time goes on, you get older. And I'm thinking about this because this whole time, you know, high school, you're full of hope, right? And then you just start tracking along this line. And mid-30s, I started to get a little bit worried. We also have a technical term for this in software, right? As time goes on, you get more technical debt, right? More cruft, more code rot. And I've been thinking about this definition. This is Umer. He has this definition of, you know, basically what happens, how technical debt happens. What's code entropy, right? I like this a lot, but the more I look at it, I go, you just change a few words, and it really applies to human beings. Human beings go through many modifications over their lifetime. As they grow, complexity creeps in. Humans add new functionality in a quick and dirty manner and apply duct tape to their defects. As a result, their quality of life suffers and things get really bad, right? Their lives become so complex and buggy, they're virtually impossible to maintain. And it's kind of like, as we go on through life, we just keep adding new stuff, right? It's just like, here we go, let's keep going. Or it's like we just keep installing new packages and never cleaning anything up. We've got the same packages that were installed when we were kids, and then we just keep going, like npm install college, npm install career, npm install dating, right? And it's just all sitting there on our machine, just causing all sorts of dependency problems. And I'm wondering, maybe the same methodology we've figured out for software, we need to start applying to our lives, right? Maybe when you get over here, it's just rewrite, right? Let's just rewrite it all. And maybe you're over here, and it's well, maybe I can just refactor a few things. So this is what I want to talk about. And I think it's worth talking about here at Laracon, because we're really all here for one reason, and that's we want our lives to be better, right? Why else would you pick up Laravel, right? You're fucking stuck in PHP, and then Taylor, the PHP messiah, comes along, and you're like, yes, right? You want your life to be better, right? Is that why you're here? Yeah. So let's talk about the human software, right? Let's talk about the stuff that's going on inside of us. Tweets like this kind of scare me. This is Miguel. I don't think Miguel's here right now, but he's one of there's these Laracon young bloods, right? They're the teenagers. Is Sam Podlegar here? Is he somewhere here? Anyway, he's one of those teenage young bloods. And people I want to be like when I grow up. Somehow I end up in the end of this list. And there is something about this is nice, but so much of what Miguel sees is just what I want him to see. It's how I present myself on Twitter and on YouTube when I go live. And in some ways, this has gotten worse because finally, I've made something that matters. This is my new software product, Transistor. And it's finally, I've got this thing that's growing, right? I made it. Did the dream. But there's all this stuff that most people don't see behind the scenes. And it kind of feels like often online, especially for me, maybe for you too, we just kind of present the nice bits of our code, right? Here it is. Oh, this looks so good. Your life looks so good. You're always in Mexico, right? You're always on the beach. You're always doing something exciting. And the reality, at least my life, is it looks like this. It's just like a fucking hamster wheel going, and all this cruft. And there's this guy, Jerry Colonna. He basically does counseling for co-founders, people that start a business. And he has this saying the psychological baggage we carry with us, if left unexamined, can lead us to destructive behaviors. And if the psyche is the computer that runs our lives, yeah, maybe we do need to clean it up a bit. And I learned this late. And so it's important to pay down your mental technical debt. What I want to try to do is use David Hemphill's format for a good talk. Here's some interesting problems I faced and how I overcame them. Here's some psychological problems that I faced and how I solved them. Now, we're going to go through a bit of a dark valley here, but I promise you we'll come back out on the other side. You guys okay with that? All right, I'm going to bare my soul a little bit, which I know you're not supposed to do at a PHP programmers conference, but I'm taking a risk, okay? You guys with me? All right. So let's talk about the first problem I face. Here's me in high school again, blonde hair, right there. And I grew up in Stony Plain, Alberta. Any of you been to Stony Plain, Alberta? 7,000 people, farming town, right? You get beat up if you don't have a belt buckle, a cowboy hat. Look at me, I got beat up a lot. And these are my peers. These are the people I hung out with. And it's just natural for human beings to determine their value by comparing themselves to others, right? That's what we do, even if we don't admit it. We're always kind of like, where do I fit in? How do I match up? Where am I in this order, right? And here, there were two things that were true about me all through school. Number one, I was the geekiest kid in my whole town. I was the only kid, who knows what this is? This is a bulletin board. This is ANSI art. I used to live for this shit. I love this, but I was the only kid that would visit bulletin boards. I was the only kid that wanted to be a sysop and run my own bulletin board. Anyone else here run a BBS when they're kids? Oh, yeah. All the people 50 years old, 40, yeah, we're all here. But I love this stuff. I was the first kid that was on Usenet. Loved ELT 2600. Spent all my time on ELT 2600. Actually, if I have time, I'll tell you a story about how I got in trouble on ELT 2600. Like police, the whole thing. I'll save it for later if I got time. So this was true. I was the geekiest kid all through high school. If people had a computer thing, they would come to me. I was it. The second thing that was true about me was I was the most entrepreneurial. Me and my friend Adrian started doing these events. This was, over here, Atomic was Stony Plain's first rave. And then Freestyle was the first hip-hop show in Stony Plain ever, and since then, actually. And so I had these two things that were true about me. And when I compared myself to my peers, I had a way of going, yeah, I'm good at stuff. But now, we have the internet. It's like billions of people. And my peer group, the people I get compared to and the people I compare myself to, looks more like this, right? And a lot of these people are my friends. But it's still kind of hard knowing I'm getting compared to these people. Because most of these people are better at computers than I am, and there's way better entrepreneurs on this list than I am. And it's a little bit hard to look at these folks and go, man, how do I match up in this new peer group, this new competitive group where there's so many of us, and these people seem so good? And then you go back to this graph here, which is as I kept going, I went in, my first software job was when I was 28. I was already the oldest person on the team. Anyone have that feeling of being the oldest person? How many of you have had a younger boss, like a boss who's in their 20s? Oh, fuck that guy, hey? Some 20-year-old telling you what to do? And so as you go along this thing here, and you feel like you've started late, you kind of start to feel like this. This is an email I got. I'm 47, and I'm kind of freaked out that I'm close to my professional peak. I'm still in the trenches as a senior developer, but I'm not a team leader or manager. You know, there's some stuff there, right? If you're not a team manager, a team leader or manager, how long are we going to keep you around? You got to move into management quick, right? And that clock starts ticking as soon as you start to get in your 40s. I'm coming to an age where it's harder to keep up with the younger devs. Now, 20-year-olds, if you've ever wondered why it sometimes feels like the older people on your team don't like you, it's because it's true. And here's the problem. I remember, I joined this team in my 20s, and there's this guy named Dwayne Bowes. And Dwayne had this habit, like in a meeting, if he wasn't happy, he'd take off his hat and he'd slam it on the table. And I was just this eager kid, right? 20 years old, like get into the office. Boss says, hey, who wants to take this project? Oh, hell, I'll take that project, right? I got nothing going on. Who wants to work tonight? Hell, I'll do that. I got nothing going on. And Dwayne's like, he's in his 40s. He's like, God damn this kid, right? Screw him. And it's just a natural kind of reaction to being older. Yeah, the hardest part about being tech is just feeling like this guy, right? Listen, I'm important. I've been around a long time. I know a lot of stuff. I've been through stuff, right? And it's not like there's no reason to start getting worried when you get older. We know that a lot of teams like hiring younger devs. We know that most startup founders get their funding when they are between 20 and 34, and then it's like 35, nope, 40, nope, 45, 50, and then after 54, no way, right? You're not getting any money. These people probably have some good startup ideas, but most of the money goes over here. Again, people, you can just kind of start to feel like, man, am I respected? Am I going to get left behind? Am I going to get treated like this? The elderly like to fiddle. Oh, one more thing. Nothing bugs a 30-something or a 40-something or a 50-something more than working hard, like going to the job, like working extra hours, and you got your kids at home, and you're just doing it to pay the mortgage. You just like finally got like a raise. And then this kid gets bought by a Yahoo for $30 million. Just like ruin your day, right? Now this is, of course, what's this worth now? 0, right? They just marked down this company to 0. It's not worth anything now. Here's another email I got. The older I get, the more worried I become. It feels like I've been struggling for a long time. It's been one startup failure after another. It feels like everyone is moving ahead, whereas I'm being left behind. This really resonates with me, because I felt this way. It felt like I'd worked so hard, just grinding it out, putting myself out there. And you start to have these thoughts, like, this kid gets bought for $30 million, and you're thinking, man, I thought I'd be further along than I am now. Okay. This is me and my kids. I have 4 kids. If this isn't, well, yeah, be careful. My parenting advice is basically get a vasectomy. If this isn't an ad for birth control, I do not know what is, right? Just tired. Like I just come home from a day of work. I commuted an hour in downtown, work all day at a software company, commute an hour out, and I'd just be so tired. I'd just collapse on the floor, and I'd be sleeping, but my boys would just like climb on top of me, right? And yeah, it's hard being in this position. It really is. Can any of you guys resonate with this so far? Okay, good. Yeah, this whole age-time thing. And eventually, this is where things start to get a little bit bad. So, you know, you're trying, you're working, it's like high school, you're full of hope, and then your 20s, and you're just da-da-da-da-da, and then your 30s, and you're like, okay, is it going to happen? And it just keeps not happening. And you start wondering, well, maybe it's never going to happen for me. And it was dangerous, at least for me, because that kind of quickly devolved into bitterness, right? I developed this life philosophy that I got from a comedian called, fuck it. That was like and I never like said, okay, this is gonna be my philosophy, but like internally, it would just be like, fuck it, you know? And if, a new opportunity came up, I'd be like, I don't know, fuck it. The kids are, complaining about something. I'm like, well, I just started to have this attitude. It just seeped in, and it didn't, look at me. I look like the kind of guy that sings 3 Disney songs a day. And that's true about me. I do. But this kind of insidious thing just snuck up on me. And if you want to know what this kind of looked like, what does fuck it look like in real life? It's this. This is me, mid-30s, just like, and this guy doesn't look like he sings 3 Disney songs a day, right? This guy, you don't want to meet this guy in a back alley. Looks mean. Nothing like me. Okay, so that's kind of dark. And so I want to talk about what helped me. And this is good, because I've got 50 minutes left. You guys want to hear some hope? You want to hear a little bit of how I crawled out of this? All right. All right, here we go. So there's kind of 5 things that helped. Get professional help, assume ownership for your life, do things repeatedly that are good for you and others, get rid of bad habits, and lose the ego. Now, by the way, this is what worked for me. I'm not trying to preach up here about what you should do at all. This is just what worked for me. I'm just sharing my story. And hopefully it'll be helpful to you in some way. So the first thing I did is, and it's cliche, I got a therapist. Not Dr. Sabatso. I actually, the reason that, the thing that triggered this is I'd made every excuse in the world, not like all those thoughts, for those of you that don't have a therapist, all the thoughts you have right now are exactly the same thoughts I had. It's like, nah, that therapy's not for me. It costs a lot of money. It's embarrassing, like thinking about having to go and find somebody. It's embarrassing even thinking, like, how does it work? Like, do you just you go in and then is there like a thing you lay on? Like, what do you do? I had all of those thoughts. And then my friend Nathan Barry, who started this company, ConvertKit, in his 20s, and I just thought was the most successful young person I've ever met. Thought like he was, like he never made mistakes. He never, like nothing ever went wrong for him. He shared this with me, that he's fought for years with depression. Again, remember that the clean code everybody can see on the outside, but down below there's all this stuff happening? That was going on with him. He said, the reality is, I've been suffering from depression for years. And he said, in 2016, he started going to counseling. It was the best decision he made. And just that one conversation, like, opened it up, and I said, well, maybe I could do that. And when things had to get really bad for me to actually go through with it. I don't think you should wait that long. But eventually, I found myself doing this. People ask how do you find a therapist? This is what you do. Therapists near me. I found 3. I did a phone call with one. I did an appointment with another one, and an appointment with another one, and I just chose the person that I had the most resonance with. Best decision I've ever made. Seriously. And again, maybe it's not for everybody, but it really worked for me. I tried that chat therapy, like there's like apps you can buy. Don't do that. At least it didn't work for me. Going and seeing a real human being who's trained to help sort out your basement is so helpful. I think you should do it even when you don't feel like shit. Because I got myself in a crisis situation, and it was like I didn't know the numbers 911. I had nobody to call. So if you get a therapist when you're feeling pretty good, you can just go, hey, like this guy in New York told me to come, right? I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just here to build a rapport with you. That would be a fine therapist meeting, okay? Love this, Dan Harmon. This thing, it's weird when you're not feeling good mentally, the things that help you. And this Dan Harmon tweet, he basically says like us people, like us geeks, we're head people. We think we can sort everything out in our head, right? If I just like think about a problem long enough, I'll solve it. But with mental issues and psychological issues and emotional issues, having stuff in your head all the time and it never getting out is a huge problem. That's where you start to not do so well. And so just the act of like vocalizing it, like sitting down with my therapist, I'll just sit down. So what's going on? I'll be like, and I'll just start talking. And as I talk, and seriously, I tell her everything. Like the weirdest, craziest thought, like the things I'm struggling, everything. And I just, bleh, and it feels so good. It feels like, I know you're not supposed to do this anymore, but remember when you used to defrag your hard drive? And it would just like, bleh, 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 and clean it all up? Oh my God, like just going to therapy is like cleaning up my brain. It feels so good. The second thing that helped was meeting this guy. This is James Clear. If you read one book this year that's not programming related and is not fiction, read Atomic Habits. Seriously, it's been on the New York Times bestseller list for a long time. Atomic Habits, so good. And I actually met James when I was not doing good. And I was at a retreat with him. And as we were in the airport going home, I kind of sat next to him, and in a cynical kind of way, he was starting to think about the ideas for his book. And I said, that stuff's not for me. Like, it's not going to work. It's too late for me to start doing like positive habits that are going to like impact my life. And he said this thing that has really resonated with me. Every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. Let me explain this. So before, I had this idea that, no, you're just like born with it, right? Like you're either born with the ability to program or you're not. You're either, or maybe it's like internal, like the beliefs you have inside of you are who you become as a person. James has a different theory. He says, no. It's what you repeatedly do that defines who you are. So I'm not a runner. And if someone said, well, Justin, just fake being a runner, my brain knows I'm not a runner. There's no evidence. I didn't go running yesterday. I didn't go running today. Who went running today? Yeah, you guys are runners. How often do you run? 4 times a week. So you have evidence that 4 times a week you run, right? So someone's going to ask you if you're a runner. Would you say you're a runner? Yeah, because you have evidence. 4 times a week I run. Right? This is a really powerful concept that you can apply to anything. Like, part of me started to feel like a bad dad. I'm just a bad dad. But wait a second. Every day when I wake up, I have this option of having a vote towards being a good dad. So it's like, wake up in the morning, Saturday, it's like, what am I going to do? What can I do to be a good dad? Waffles. Right? You get up, you make waffles. That's a vote for the kind of person I want to become, a better dad. The other thing that helped was this quote from Will Smith. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Your life is your responsibility. I was like just blaming everything. Like even like some of this thing, I don't hate 20-year-olds, right? But like blaming 20-year-olds for our problems? No, we're responsible for our life. It's nobody's fault except for us. Well, it could be other people's fault, but it's nobody's responsibility but us. And this sounds a lot like, advice we give in programming. Jeff Atwood saying, always assume the problem is in your code and act accordingly, right? Quit blaming other people. Justin. And this last part is actually powerful. The person you want to become. And it makes you think, like, what is life for? What really matters? You know, I've been like working so hard and like trying to launch businesses and so hard on my career. Like, I just loved the office. Like, if I could just go to the office, I just loved being there and working and like, but what's the point? What am I doing this for? And hitting that low point and then coming out of it and looking around, you go, well, what is it for? Well, it's for these people. These are my 4 kids. Sadie is going to be the next president of the United States. She's Canadian, but she's coming over. She got 100% on her math. 100%, crazy. Marty has like a crazy mind. He likes making games. He's starting to program himself. Jameis loves making videos. He's like really good with claymation. Liam is an entrepreneur. Liam bought, with his money he saved up, he bought a fridge to put Cokes in, because he knows when you have 2 teenagers in the house, someone will always buy a Coke. So this is who I'm living for. These people, this is the Geek Beers that I organize in Vernon, BC. This is my local community, right? This is what life's about. Sharing life with real human beings. And then the online community, all of the people, all of you that I know, that I meet every year. This is what life's about. And I like this definition, you know? Let's like live virtuously, fulfill our own potential, and really like engage with other people for mutually beneficial things. Booze, okay. Let's go back to this slide here. I had this habit of putting the boys to bed. I put the boys to bed, and it'd just be like, it's so much work. Like, I don't know if any of you have a hard time putting your kids to bed, but it was like these 3 boys, getting them to bed is like 1, and then, okay, 2, and then the final one, 3, okay. And the end, I'd just be like, oh, fuck. And I got in the habit of having 2 shots of whiskey every time I put the kids to bed. And it's funny how these things sneak up on you. Like, I didn't think anything of it until my therapist said, you have to go to your doctor and tell your doctor you're depressed. I'm like, okay, so I go to my doctor. And my doctor says, okay, first question, how much are you drinking? I said, not much. Like, I have 2 shots of whiskey every day after I put the kids to bed. And she said, well, that's actually quite a bit. So she told me for 30 days, no drinking. And it had a huge impact on my life. I've actually just continued it. So since January 1st, I think I've had 2 drinks or something like that. And it's had a huge impact on my life. I'm not saying that you need to do this. I know there's a party like right after. Everyone's gonna be like looking at me like I'm a priest, you know, like. This app was really helpful. Streaks app, just like tracking every time I was able to, you know, not drink in a day. And actually it was just a relief. Like, am I gonna drink? Am I not gonna drink? It's just like now I just have to say, well, I just don't drink anymore, right? It's been really good. All right, so these are the things. This last one is how I'm gonna close, and I got exactly 3 minutes. Lose the ego. So I've shown you this picture before. This is me in 1985, VIC 20. And like I said, I've loved computers my whole life. Had every opportunity to learn how to program. Tried learning Turbo Pascal by myself when I was like 10 or 11, and I just couldn't get it. And I started to kind of develop this identity for myself of, I guess I'm just a geek who can't code. And it bugged me, though. Like, I could never get it. And the older I got, eventually, you know, I get into my 30s, and I'm like, it's just too late for me. You know, I'll just be the marketing guy. That'll be my new identity. So this was kind of holding me back. Then I got invited to come to Laracon. I had met Taylor and Adam before. I didn't know they were connected to all this. They were just friends from the internet that I liked spending time with. And one year, Taylor invited me to speak, and that was 2 years ago. And I got introduced to all of you. I was like, wow, this is interesting. This whole community is unlike any other programming community. Like, you guys are way more friendly than Stack Overflow, you know? And so, and then last year in Chicago, I was talking to this guy, and I was like, so what's your story? And he said, oh, I was selling insurance 3 months ago, and I wanted to program my own app, so I just picked up Laravel, and now I'm programming my own app in Laravel. Man, this guy was selling insurance 3 months ago. I've been a geek my whole life. Maybe I can do this. And so basically, as soon as I got back from Laracon last year, I just said, every action I take is a vote for the person I want to become. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this the Justin way? And so my way is I just click go on a live stream that goes to Twitch and YouTube and all 20,000 of my Twitter followers and just goes, and then I'm live, and I go, hey, I'm Justin, and I don't know what I'm doing. But if anyone wants to show up and help me try to accomplish this to this, that would be amazing. And I think I've done these 3 times a week, and people have shown up. Jack McDade showed up and helped me. Most of what I've learned so far is just DevOps, right? Just installing shit. But it's good. I'm finally getting to the point where I can write code. And this is what Adam taught me to do a couple weeks ago. It's just, I think it's 12 lines of view. And I know for you folks, this is not a big deal. This was such a big deal for me. I felt like a god. All it does is it drops a menu down and closes it. That's it. But the power of someone who's tried to do this stuff forever, finally being able to do this is I can't tell you how good. I mean, you guys know how good it feels, right? You've been doing it forever, but it feels so good. And so now I'm building my own stuff. This is a site that I built myself in Statamic using Tailwind. This is my own theme. I did everything myself. Again, maybe not a big deal to you. Huge deal for me. And then the other bonus is we have a Ruby on Rails app, but a lot of these principles just extend to Rails. And so I'm able to make meaningful contributions to my own software. Someone can write us in the morning, and I can have a little fix out by the afternoon. It's incredible. The ability you folks have to create things like this, it's incredible. And it feels like I'm just discovering it now. And so I just want to thank you guys for being this community and for allowing me to be a part of it. Thanks.